You're listening to Thursday Night AMP on the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
AngryMarks.com pro wrestling, mixed martial arts, and video games podcast. That's right, because it's just Stevie J and the Great Sudoku tonight. So we're going to talk about some things that we like besides pro wrestling. But first, let Jason say hello.
Hello, yes, we're talking about video games, so yeah, I would say WWE has to be the Fallout 76 of the wrestling world.
Well, they're also tone deaf, which could make them the Blizzard Activision to BlizzCon.
Oh, yeah, that was a train wreck, wasn't it?
Well, almost as big of a train wreck as what happened with the CU podcast afterward, or also almost as big of a train wreck as Fallout 76 has been for Bethesda. So, let me just
Everything is going wrong with Fallout 76.
Yes, so we have an annual tradition around here at the Thursday Night AMP of awarding a golden turducken to the worst in professional wrestling of the last 12 months. We usually do it after Thanksgiving, but since William Huckabee was at a wrestling match tonight and could not join us, we are going to postpone that for 1 week, and hopefully Seth Draken and Mike Poulin will be able to join us for the Turducken Roundtable next week. So I think we should give a golden turducken to the worst in video games after we're done discussing these three topics. Which one do you want to start?
That's going to be tough.
Yeah,
that's going to be tough.
They are all strong contenders, so which one do you want to do first?
Let's start with the PlayStation Mini.
Okay, the PlayStation Classic has become one debacle after another. The first thing that went wrong, the fans were not enamored with the lineup of games that they selected for it.
It wasn't the worst, but it was very half-hearted.
Yeah, it was kind of like, well, we don't have the licenses for some of these things, and we're not going to try to get them, so here's what you get instead. So they put some rare games on there, like Jumping Flash and Intelligent Cube, which I thought was a good move, and they put some of their greatest hits on there, like Final Fantasy VII and Wild Arms, which I thought was a good move, but then the rest of the lineup was, as you said, pretty meh.
And not only that, but they're not using the NTSC ROMs for most of them.
Well, that was the second or third of their debacles. The second was that they didn't develop their own emulator for it and used an open source emulator, which they just slapped in a box and didn't even pay to develop. So they were half-assing it right out of the gate. And then, to make matters worse, we discovered that 9 of the 20 games were running at 50 megahertz instead of 60. They used the PAL region version for 9 of the games.
Licensing issue? Did they not have the licenses to the North American release, the NTSC releases?
The speculation that I've heard that almost but doesn't really quite make sense is that there was some sort of timing issue between the 50 and 60 megahertz versions. And so instead of releasing a separate region version for each one, they just decided to use 50 megahertz for everything and hope that the fans wouldn't notice.
And that's one of the first things the fans noticed.
Oh yeah, because when you're playing old PlayStation games and they seem about 20% slower than what you remember them being, people are going to pick up on that right away.
And that got a bunch of pre-orders canceled.
Well, the lineup got a bunch canceled. The news that they didn't develop it in-house got it canceled. And then the 9 games that are running too slow got it canceled. And if that all wasn't bad enough, the look and feel of the menus when you interact with it is I'm going to borrow a phrase here, complete and utter shite. Not even shit, it's shite.
Shite.
Yes.
Is that a Jim Sterling quote?
Yes, or he would say it's bollocks, but, whatever. It's total half-assery because you could slap together a better menu on your computer using MS Paint than the one they designed for the interface on this system.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing there's Raspberry Pi systems that run more smoothly than this thing.
That is the real damning thing about this whole PlayStation Classic, is you could run a RetroPie with the exact same emulator, open source emulator, that they used in this Classic, and the games would probably run and look better.
Especially if you use the NTSC ROMs.
I know, right? So they have totally phoned this in. Sony outsourced this and clearly did not give a crap about it. They were just trying to grab a share of the retro mini market and cash in for the holidays.
And sadly, they probably still will, for the same reason, Nintendo Minis sold.
But that's the thing.
That whole nostalgia factor, and people who are buying them aren't going to be the diehards anyway, but a lot of the pre-orders did get canceled.
Well, that's the thing that irritates me about it, is yes, it will still sell for the reason you just outlined, but Nintendo could have done the exact same thing. They could have outsourced it. They could have half-assed it. They didn't. They actually made a quality system in both the NES Classic and the SNES Classic, and they put the games people wanted on it, and they made authentic controllers that looked and felt right, and they made a menu interface system that was smooth, easy to use, and even had a catchy jingle for you to listen to. And one other thing I forgot to mention about the PlayStation Classic, it only has one save state per slot. The NES and SNES Classic have 4 for each game.
Yeah, and they're older technology, you would think.
Yeah, this shouldn't be a problem. There should be like a whole PS1 memory card for each and every game on the system, but they didn't think of that.
I mean, yeah, the amount you could fit on solid state storage, it's not difficult.
No, they deserve some kind of turducken for this one, but then so does Fallout 76, because holy crap.
Boy, this is one where fans did not get what they expected. They wanted refunds, and Bethesda doubled down and said no.
Yeah. Well, okay. Just as a case in point, for Black Friday, I went out and got myself an Xbox One because they were on sale for $199 with a $20 gift card included. So it was like getting one for $179, which I thought was a hell of a deal. And I had some Xbox One games and some Xbox 360 games that I wanted to play that I was, A, unable to play because I didn't have a One, and B, my 360 is probably going to die any day now, so sometimes I'm just afraid to turn the damn thing on. So This was like a saving grace for me, like, hallelujah, with backward compatibility, I get to play these old 360 games again, and I get to play the new Xbox One games. And then my wife looks at me when we're at Target, and she's like, hey, what about Fallout 76? And she points to a big display, and I'm like, no. And she's like, why? What? What's so bad about that? I thought you liked Fallout. I'm like, yeah, but this is a game you do not touch with a 10-foot pole because they've botched it so bad.
And yeah, did you watch the latest Jim Sterling video this morning?
The last Jim Sterling video I saw about Fallout 76 was the one he did where people were trying to contact Bethesda for refunds, and they got a customer support person who basically first said, yeah, we'll be happy to help you, and then turned around and immediately said, oh, I'm sorry, we can't give refunds on this game.
There was a new special edition of the game released with a messenger bag.
Oh, the canvas bag.
Yes.
Okay, so people will have no idea. Yeah, they were supposed to have like a limited edition pre-order canvas bag, like this really sturdy military grade canvas bag. The bag that came with the limited pre-order edition was like a hefty garbage bag.
It was like nylon and wrinkled.
Yeah, it wasn't anything sturdy or military grade or anything like what they had advertised and shown in the photo.
And somebody contacted support, and support's response was, what you saw in the advertisement was a prototype. It proved to be too expensive to produce, so this is what you get. There's no plans to change that.
That's just blatant false advertising. That's a sham. I wouldn't even call that hucksterism, because I actually like hucksters to some degree because they're entertaining you, and this is not entertaining.
That's nacho manism.
Yeah, this is just theft by deception. This is outright fraud.
And yeah, so Bethesda's offer was then, okay, well, if you contact support because you're unhappy with the bag, we'll give you 500 atoms, which are in-game currency. And some user rightly pointed out that, even to get a virtual bag with the mailman carries in there, you need 700 atoms. So they're not even giving you enough for a virtual bag.
Right. In other words, they're saying, screw you, you get what you get, too bad. That's basically their response. And that's on top of the game being buggy as hell, just a complete devoid of interaction wasteland. The game is
loot box filled.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a AAA title that's filled with loot boxes. It's not a free-to-play game yet.
No. Imagine that. A AAA game filled with loot boxes, as good Jim Sterling would say.
AAA game filled with loot boxes, and with changes like in the past where you could collect certain relics in the game and keep them as souvenirs, you can't anymore. They now last as power-ups for about an hour.
Mm-hmm. Because they want you to go buy more loot boxes so you can get more relics.
Yeah, there's speculation that it may end up as a free-to-play game at some point.
Oh, at the rate they're going, it's probably the only way to save face at this point, because they have just irritated everybody, especially, Jim has said this, Sid Alpha has said this, Pat and Ian have said this, pretty much everybody with a video game podcast or a show has said this. Review Tech USA, I'm damn sure he said this. Bethesda was coasting for years and years on the popularity of the Fallout franchise and didn't realize that they were getting sloppier and sloppier. And now that they've botched it up so bad, they don't know what to do with themselves because they thought everybody loved them.
This is WWE levels of botch.
Oh, and we will definitely get into that later on, but
I definitely want to talk about it because I've heard this week's Raw was one of the worst of all time.
It was off the hook bad, but maybe not as bad as what happened to Pat and Ian, speaking of the CU podcast, because
bad or good or indifferent, but it was one of those things that baffled me when I heard their podcast after what had happened with Diablo Immortal and BlizzCon, and Blizzard doubling down, much like Bethesda was, saying, what, don't you guys own phones? Like, everybody was expecting the Diablo 4 announcement, and it just didn't come.
No.
Instead, what they got was some game that has been reskinned, some mobile game that has been reskinned to look like Diablo, and rightly so, these fans who come to BlizzCon from not only across the country, but across the world, attended and rightly booed when this was made the keynote presentation.
Not only that, they released a video of the keynote presentation, and it immediately hit the top 5 for biggest percentage of downvotes of all YouTube videos.
It was one of the preview of the game.
Yeah.
But someone asked, this is an out of season April Fool's joke.
The keynote address, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but both videos ended up in the top 5. The keynote address and the commercial for the game.
But I'd watched, reviews with I've actually started watching videos from the guy's channel who asked, if this is an April Fool's joke, and who was the other one? Red Shirt guy.
Mm-hmm.
Who said, are there any plans to bring this to the computer? And they're like, no.
Okay.
No, fuck you guys.
And that is the point where Pat and Ian jumped into the fray on the CU podcast, because they thought the fan who came up and asked if this was coming to computers was being a smart aleck and a crybaby, in their words.
And he was actually being very restrained. I watched his videos, and there were some much more snarky things that he had wanted to say, but he said something to get past the screener, but then just basically went with that to see what was what basically.
Mm-hmm.
But he restrained himself greatly from what he could have said.
Well, Pat and Ian were not restrained. And Ian, I really like Ian. I've interacted with him on Twitter. I've sent him emails about stuff. He's a really nice guy, and I've got nothing against Pat either, even though I'm not always sure what side of the political spectrum he's on. I suspect we might be on different sides, but I don't let politics interfere with my passion.
He's kind of
for gaming.
smarmy. He likes to play that I'm in the middle card, so I don't piss off any of my listeners, which just bothers me to no end.
Yeah, I kind of get that sense too, but I am passionate about video
MVP
games.
was like that on his podcast, and it drove me crazy. So fuck you, MVP.
Basically, yes, I'm with you on that, but I'm just saying, his passion about gaming and the fact that he's authored game books and done all these video game videos that I've enjoyed, I can still look past that and be like, if I met Pat, I'd shake his hand, say, you do a lot of good things in the gaming universe, and I appreciate that. But I'm trying to just focus specifically on what happened here, because Pat, I think, was actually the more restrained of the two of them when this incident blew up. Ian was the one who absolutely went off the rails and was like, "Oh, you whining
How dare the fans
crybabies
complain about things that the darling publishers put out?"
Yeah, like grow up, you
Leave
crybabies.
Blizzard alone. You're lucky they put out games for you at all, you bastard.
Yeah, I was just listening to this and thinking to myself, oh dear, the response to this is not going to be good. And
it was baffling. It was just unconscionable that they took Blizzard's side, and it left me scratching my head. And when they came back a few weeks later saying they lost something like 2,500 to 3,000 subscribers to their podcast because of it, it's like, well, what did you expect was going to happen?
Yeah, well, I don't even think it's necessarily that they lost the subscribers for taking Blizzard's side, because I believe Pat at the beginning actually said, I understand where these people are coming from, that they came around the world, like you said, they came from all over the country and all around the world, and they wanted to hear something, and they didn't get to hear what they wanted. So
for someone who does a games podcast, for two people that do a games podcast, they really did not have their finger on the pulse of that particular gaming community.
No. At first, it seemed like Pat did, and then they just totally went into, let's kick a dog while it's down. Let's just tell them, hey, suck it up. Life's unfair. You don't get what you want all the time. And so they lost a few thousand subscribers, but this is where I have to turn it around and talk about the other side of the issue, which is, if you say something controversial, you can lose fans. It happens. And Pat and Ian noted that, they say things in a hyperbolic, extreme way at times on their show. They are trying to be entertainers. They don't necessarily hate each other, even though they might tell each other to fuck off on the show all the time, just because they're being entertaining. Okay, I do get that, but what I don't get is the fans who go beyond just being upset with them about the hyperbole and the over-the-top theatrics of it, and go straight to, let's stalk Ian's wife on Twitter and harass her and dox her and leave threatening messages in private DMs. That's
taking things too far.
That's going beyond, I'm upset and I'm going to unsubscribe, to, you are just a straight up cretin at that point. You are a low-life individual who has a unhealthy opinion of themselves to think that they are so high and mighty that they can harass and stalk people who aren't even involved.
Too much time on your hands.
Too much time on your hands, and Vonnie is not even involved in this. She didn't make any of these comments. She didn't appear on the podcast and say any of these things. Just by virtue of being married to Ian doesn't mean she has anything to do with it at all.
No, yeah, that's going too far. I don't quite believe the whole, we're doing the whole hyperbole thing. It didn't seem like that to me. That kind of seemed like they were trying to come up with an excuse after the fact.
Well, I'm not willing to rule that out.
That was the excuse that they put forth. But if you go back and listen to it, they were rallying against the fan base, and they just completely, they were tone deaf. They were as tone deaf as Blizzard was. I mean, I'm surprised you wouldn't hear this version of the CU podcast is sponsored by Blizzard.
Okay, well, let me put it this way, because I left this in a response to Review Tech USA's video about the whole debacle. I said, I don't think either side is right here. I don't think Pat and Ian are right for pissing on the fans and calling them a bunch of crybabies, but I also don't think the fans are right for harassing them and being abusive.
No, I mean, harassing and abusing is wrong, but if you want to unsubscribe, by all means, if that's right. What you want to do, go for it. But you're well within your rights to do that.
Let's try to strike some common ground here, because there is one thing that they said that I partially agree with, is companies may be expected to do something, but they are not obligated to do something. And just because you're a fan of their products doesn't mean that they have to give you what you want. I do agree with that.
I agree with that, but yeah, the way Blizzard went about it was completely backwards.
Yeah, and the fact that they insulted
That
the
said,
people,
Blizzard was still way, way, way out of line.
right, when they said, what, you people don't have cell phones?
What, none of you guys have phones?
Yeah, that was just absolutely a classless, tactless...
That was there, and yeah, you don't make the highlight of your convention for your company's video games a mobile game. You just don't do that, especially a reskinned free-to-play game.
Right. So a lot of tone deafness all around, but all I'm asking on both sides is, can we turn it down a little, please? Can the fans of Diablo, like, stop doxing Ian and his wife and harassing Pat? And can, on the other side, can Pat and Ian just be like, well, maybe we weren't really using hyperbole, but at the same time, we understand that not everybody's happy, but it's just strike a middle ground here. Don't
dox
on
people.
either
Go to
side.
one of those websites where you can order feces and, send it straight to Blizzard. Do that instead.
Do you remember when Cards Against Humanity did that and people thought it was a prank?
There were people who thought it was a prank, but there were also people who took advantage of it because they knew it was real.
Right. And they wanted to order actual shit and send it to their friends. And sure enough, they sent actual shit in a box. They got some dried up cow dung, which had been cleaned and sterilized and whatever, and it was bagged and put in boxes, and they sent literal shit to people.
Exactly. If that's what you want to do to Bethesda or to Blizzard or to Sony for the PlayStation Classic, by all means, go ahead and do that.
Mm-hmm. Just don't harass people who do podcasts, because...
They're giving you shit, you give them shit.
Yeah. Oh, I guess I'm not even encouraging people to mail shit to people. Maybe to corporations, okay, but I don't really...
Yeah, not to people, but yeah, send it to the board of directors.
Yeah, or,
Send it directly to Vince McMahon.
On that note, maybe that's
a
good
dead
segue.
Yet? Did he die? Please tell me he died.
I know you've wished death upon him a million times, and I don't want to go there because that seems pretty low and unnecessary, but I would like him to take an early retirement and just go live in a nice cushy home somewhere in South Florida and forget about wrestling altogether. Because he already has. I mean, that would just be making it full circle, because clearly, at this point, he knows nothing about wrestling.
That much is obvious.
In a 3-hour program, which is already way too long, an entire hour of that program was devoted to Baron Corbin.
Yay!
Either as a wrestling performer or as the acting general manager, 1 hour of that program.
How tired has the heel authority figure become in WWE?
It's not just the heel authority figure, it's the heel figure. It doesn't matter if they're an authority or not. As Brian Alvarez rightly points out, when you watch Raw, you don't see the good guys win for a while, and then there's a heat segment at the end to get you to come back next week. It's just heat all the way through. It's always the bad guys triumphing over the good guys, and then you're supposed to tune in for revenge next week, and you never get it. It's just more heat.
For 3 hours every Monday night.
And that's the reason why Raw viewership declines from beginning to end. They start out at like 2.5 million and end up at 2 million or less by the end of the show because people tune in, get sick of it, and don't stick around for the main event.
Did the third hour this week make it under 2 million?
If it did, it was close. It was like 2.04 or something. It was right around there.
Yeah, kind of on a tangent there, but also I've heard that the NXT TakeOver did better than the Survivor Series.
I think it did.
In terms of rating.
I'm sure, I don't know WWE Network numbers because those aren't really publicly divulged, but I think Dave Meltzer might have intimated something to that fact from the insider knowledge that he has. And I wouldn't be surprised at anything at this point, given that SmackDown almost beat Raw in the ratings this week. It's turning out everything's going backwards. Like, Raw is now the second tier show. SmackDown isn't great, but it's like the A show by comparison. And TakeOver is always better than a pay-per-view when you have two in the same weekend.
And it has been since pretty much its inception.
Oh, there was one TakeOver I remember that was kind of but most of them are really good. Most. But I wouldn't know anymore since I dropped my network subscription. I watch the highlights on YouTube. I don't even watch the shows anymore.
It's not worth it.
No. Not, okay. Many things about, just watching the clips is enough to get you mad. And one thing that gets me mad is the fact that they have totally devoted themselves to this idea that we've got to turn Dean Ambrose heel. We've got to make the people hate him. We've got to have him talking shit about Roman Reigns having leukemia. We've got to have Seth Rollins be fighting against him because his brother in the Shield turned on him and he's an evil man. But it's not working. They've given all this heat to Dean Ambrose for being a bad guy, and people are cheering for him. They don't care.
And from what I've heard, they're doing it kind of half-assed. They're not really letting him be lunatic fringe. He's just kind of quirky.
Yeah.
He's quirky Dean Ambrose.
He's the I'm getting inoculations because you people are so dirty Dean Ambrose.
Yeah, just tried and true, tested heel tactics from 1930.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
You people smell bad.
Yeah, this is the problem with Vince McMahon, which you've already kind of indicated, is that he just needs to go away because he's trying to do things that worked when he was around in the 60s, 70s, 80s that don't work now.
Damn it, pal, get me ZZ Top.
Yeah, just what we need. Billy Gibbons in the front row again. That's really going to put butts in seats.
I bet Vince thinks it would.
Yeah, well, what Vince thinks is clearly out of touch with reality at this point. It's not watchable. It literally is not watchable because I don't watch it. I can't. I cannot. I've tapped out.
There's probably one person they're booking right on Raw, and that would be Ronda Rousey.
Even that is questionable because depending on what city they're in and what match she's having, she's not always the favorite. Most of the time, she's a good baby face, but the bad part of that is that she has to sell a beating for 7 or 8 minutes first, and if you know Ronda Rousey, the mixed martial artist, the only way she should be selling a beating for 7 or 8 minutes is if she's actually getting bloodied and
bruised. Holly
bruised.
Holmes on the other side.
Right, that's what I'm saying. It's like, this is not Holly Holm that she's facing in a WWE ring, therefore it's not believable to watch her sell for 8 minutes.
So even though they're not 50-50 booking her, they're kind of 50-50 booking her within the context of the match.
Yeah. They are making her sell and then have a big comeback and put on the armbar at the end, which always gets a pop, but at some point that well is going to run dry if they just burn it to death.
I mean, yeah, if she's a legit MMA fighter, she should just be coming in and killing everybody.
I mean, that's honestly the reason Brock Lesnar worked, even though Brock Lesnar himself got old after a while. But that was the thing that was a draw, was you'd see him on pay-per-view after not seeing him for 2 or 3 months, and then he'd come out and kill somebody in 2 minutes, and it's like, damn, who's ever going to beat him? He's just a world beater. He's destroying everyone.
And yeah, it gets stale after a while.
It does, but at least it's believable, because you look at Brock Lesnar, and you look at his legitimate athletic background, and you're like, holy freaking shit, he can kill people.
Leo Rush, that's who's going to beat him.
Oh, let's not even get me started on Leo Rush. That's another one of many reasons I tuned out.
My man!
I just got so sick of his banter. Even they got sick of the banter because they took that gimmick away from him. They didn't give him the live mic anymore, but when I was still watching, that was insufferable. That was your classic X-Pac heat. Like, you're not making me mad and making me want to see you get beat. You're making me mad and making me change the channel to watch something else.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny. There was, somebody did this, power rank your top 5 heels in the WWE right now. And my 5 were number 5, WWE Creative. Number 4, WWE Creative. Number 3, WWE Creative. Number 2, WWE Creative. And number 1, WWE Creative.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the biggest heels in WWE right now.
Or how about number 1, Vince McMahon. Number 2, Kevin Dunn. Number 3, Stephanie McMahon. Number 4, Paul Levesque. And number 5, WWE Creative.
There you go.
Everybody in charge is at fault here.
Michael Hayes.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about him. You could include him on that list, too.
Throw him in there. Heck, I'll even put Bruce Pritchard in there just because I don't like him.
Yeah, you know what? We could take Paul Levesque off the list then, because at least he does some good things with NXT. So, yeah, let's put Bruce Pritchard and Stephanie McMahon and Kevin Dunn and Vince McMahon and WWE Creative on the list. That's the top 5.
Yeah, that'll work.
Oh, well, at least there's New Japan to talk about.
Yay! We're at the very low season. We've got the World Tag League going on. An expurgated version of the World Tag League where they have narrowed it down to just one block, thankfully. And I have the endings here in front of me. Let's run those down, shall we? And currently leading the pack, as they deservedly should be, because they've been just forgotten about both within their own faction and within New Japan. We have Sonata leading the way at 12 points.
That's fine by me.
And I know Stevie is happy about that with LIJ.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they have yet to lose a match. Won all 6 matches they have right.
Yeah, did you see Chris Jericho putting over Evil?
They are the only undefeated team.
Chris Jericho just heaped praise upon them and talked about how, he'd never been in the ring with him before, and after he realized just what a good worker he is and how much heat he could draw in a match. I was like, well, thank you. Thank you for noticing what the rest of us have been noticing.
Stevie's favorite wrestler in New Japan, King of Dancing.
Indeed.
I mean, yeah, at least Evil got that high-profile match against Jericho, but Sonata has just been lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, so giving him this in the World Tag League is kind of redemption for that. It's like, okay, it's a nothing tournament in the low point of the season for New Japan, but here's your bone. We're giving you a bone. You can have it.
Yeah, I mean, outside of like multi-man LIJ matches, what have you seen Sonata do this year?
Honestly, just about nothing.
Absolutely nothing. So it's good to see him in the tournament. It's good to see the LIJ team. It's good to see that LIJ team there. I mean, they won last year, and I wouldn't mind seeing them win again this year because, honestly, out of anybody in the tournament, those are the 2 that need it the most.
Once again, I have to 100% agree.
I said that, before the tournament, and I stick with that now. They are the ones that need it. We got 3 teams below them at 10 points. We've got Ishii and Yano, and they've held the titles before, and they're a chaos team, and it is what it is. You've got, surprisingly, Zack Sabre Jr. and Tai Chi, the highest-rated Suzuki-Gun team. I thought Lance Archer and Davey Boy Smith, Killer Elite Squad, would be up in those ranks, but they're lagging one behind. So, yeah, I'm sure William is quite happy that Tai Chi is there in second place with Zack Sabre Jr.
I got nothing against it either, because I like Tai Chi as an entertainer, and I like Zack Sabre as a submission specialist, so between the 2 of them, I think it's an excellent combination, and I'm glad they are where they are in the ranks.
Zack Sabre Jr. is an amazing wrestler.
He is indeed, and some of the most believable submissions you will ever see in a wrestling ring.
It's just great reversals into those submissions. He catches people out of midair, or he'll transition one of their moves into a submission. It's just these submissions come out of nowhere from Zack Sabre Jr.
That's why they're so much fun to watch.
And rounding out the 10-point block, we have Tama Tonga and Tongaloa, and I'm sick of the Tongans. They just don't do it for me.
Well, it's just, they had so much heat in the Bullet Club versus the Elite feud, and now that seems to have all fizzled.
Yeah, but again, it was kind of X-Pac heat. It was kind of like, you're fucking up the G1 tournament, get the fuck out of here, just let the tournament go on.
True.
And yeah, that was what, August?
Yeah, and they've done nothing with it since then, so what was the point?
Yeah. Samu and Fatu, they are not.
No.
You guys are no Samoan SWAT team. You're not Samoan, but you're still not the Samoan SWAT team.
But you know what? I still like Bad Luck Fale.
Yeah, Fale's cool. He's not part of that team. He's a big dude.
Yeah, I don't want to throw all Tongans under the bus here.
And Tama Tonga can be okay on his own, but Tonga Loa is just useless.
Well, he's the most recent one out of all of them, right? He's the most recent addition.
Well, there's also, what's his name? They used to call him Leo Tongo. I don't know what the heck they call him anymore.
Right, yeah, he's even more recent, yeah.
But yeah. Whatever they call him now. But yeah, 8-point block. We've got 4 teams at 8 points. Or 5. Yeah, we got 4 of them. We got Killer Elite Squad, who I thought would be higher. They're one of the staples of the New Japan Tag Division, going back to their days before they went over to Noah. So I really thought they'd be higher, but they're here in 3rd place. What team you like and I don't? Beretta and Chucky T.
Yeah, best friends.
Not my cup of tea.
Well, you gotta like their wackiness, and if you're not into that, then you're not into them.
Not into them. Yeah, the odd couple of Juice Robinson and David Finlay.
That has no business winning. No.
Because, yeah, we have to bury Juice Robinson for whatever reason.
No, just because he's in a team with David Finlay. That's why I say no.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying he's getting buried, because they put him in a team with David Finlay.
Okay. Now I got you.
Poor Juice. Why did he get stuck in a team with David Finlay?
Why did they do nothing with him after he was so hot at the G1 special?
I don't know. They messed that up.
Oh, big time.
Why did they give that title to Cody? Ugh. Boo.
I'm not gonna take a piss on Cody on that, but yeah, they should have left it on Juice.
Definitely should have left that title on Juice. And then Michael Elgin and Jeff Cobb are at 8 points. And I'd really like to see Jeff Cobb stick around New Japan for more than just the World Tag League.
Right. Just these occasional spots are not enough. He needs to, just go in there and be a killer all the time.
I mean, he is certainly ready for New Japan, and he can do so much better than Ring of Honor.
Yeah, okay, again, you're putting me on the spot here with this, because Ring of Honor is not one of the people in pro wrestling that I really want to take the piss on right now, because WWE has got enough to urinate on for everybody. I don't have anything against Ring of Honor or New Japan, so I'm not taking the piss out on either of them.
They're just a little too indie for me, I guess.
Yeah, you can say that if you want to, but by comparison to what WWE is putting out, their product is so much better.
Yeah, and so is the Heroes of Wrestling pay-per-view, but I don't want to watch that either.
Okay, well, here, let me just solve this problem for both of us. Right now, if you go to powerslam.tv on their website, not through the iPhone, not through the Apple Store, but go to the actual website and enter the keyword AngryMarks, you can get 1 month of PowerSlam TV for free. And once you sign up on the website, you can switch it over to your mobile device if you want to. But sign up there first with the keyword AngryMarks, and you get 1 month free, and then you can watch anything on PowerSlam TV. And you don't have to just limit yourself to the options like ROH, New Japan, WWE. No, you can watch Defy. You can watch Beyond Wrestling. You can watch anything.
You can watch the Sendai Girls.
Yes, you can. And you can watch the Bruce Brody documentary, which I love. I watch it over and over. It is so good.
Definitely check that out. I'll get a cheap plug-in early here.
Why not? In fact, if you haven't used it, go ahead and do it and watch that Bruce Brody documentary and tell me what you think.
Definitely, because, yeah, Bruce Brody was one of my favorites growing up.
And his story is so tragic that it's going to haunt wrestling until basically the end of time.
Do they have the part where Luger runs out of the cage in that documentary?
I think so.
Awesome. One of wrestling's truly greatest moments.
What's really unnerving about it to me is hearing his wife, Barbara Goodish. She's a very big participant in this. And, I mean, how screwed has she been out of this whole thing that, everybody looks to her for answers, and she doesn't have any answers any more than anybody else.
Yeah, I wouldn't see why people would look to her for answers.
Yeah, but, there's nobody else to talk to because he got murdered in Puerto Rico and she's left behind, so
I mean, she could give answers about his life and, details into his life that people may not have known, but as to his murder, yeah, she was not there in Puerto Rico.
Right. I mean, she can say she talked to the wrestlers who were there in the locker room who know what happened to him, but that's about it. She wasn't there to see it herself.
I mean, there were a handful of wrestlers that were there, and we have heard their stories.
Mm-hmm. And none of them have exactly made the people involved sound innocent. So the fact that justice
and yeah, I mean, part of the problem too, from what I've heard from multiple people who were there, were that the authorities and the paramedics thought it was a work.
Yeah, or the more insidious possibility is that because that promotion is so powerful in Puerto Rico, they were told, hey, take your time getting here, act like it's a work, and don't hurry back to the hospital.
Yes, that would be quite insidious.
Yeah. It's you really gotta watch the documentary and form your own opinion on that. That's all I can say.
Well, back to lighter news here.
Yeah, we got off on a tangent there. Sorry, everybody, but Power Slam TV is still awesome. Go ahead,
Boy, that
Jason.
really puts things in perspective, man. Now World Tag League doesn't seem that bad.
No, I guess not.
Compared to Bruiser Brody's death, yeah, World Tag League is like the tropics here.
Yeah.
It's like a vacation. Yeah, again, here's a team I don't care where they finish as long as they just murder everybody. Minoru Suzuki and Takashi Iizuka.
Yeah, just
6
let them
points.
chop, slap, kick, punch, and kill. And
They're kind of right where they need to be. They're right in the middle of the pack. They're at 6 points. They're halfway there.
they don't have to win. They just have to lay beatings on everyone.
Yes, and Iizuka just has to run around like a madman and scare kids.
And Misu has to go out there and put on the scariest looking submissions. Like I said, Zack Sabre has the best ones because we talked about how beautiful his transitions are, but Misu's are legit.
Yes, and Misu needs to beat up some young lions too.
That too.
Just that's what he does.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, talking about another odd couple pairing here, Hangman Page and Yujiro Takahashi.
I like each of them individually, but as a team, that is not a good combination.
Yeah, they do not have similar styles.
That's like a peanut butter and mayonnaise sandwich. You want each one, but not together.
And are they Bullet Club or are they not Bullet Club?
I think the jury is out on that one.
Because Hangman Page kind of hangs out with the Elite, and Takahashi, well, I don't know. He's just always in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
He's not Tongan.
No, like I said, the jury's out on where either one of those guys stand. I would think Adam Page is with the Elite, but I don't have that confirmed.
Yeah. And then rounding out our 6-point teams here is one of the Uncle's teams. We have Tenzan and Kojima. Tenkozy have 6 points.
Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't like them to win, but I wouldn't expect them to win.
No, I mean, especially in Japan, the crowds would go nuts for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they are beloved.
The crowds would go nuts to see Tenkozy win.
Yeah, with good reason they are beloved, but they're kind of not the right team. They're the fan favorite team, but they're not the team.
For the same reason that Liger gets a huge pop every time he comes out.
Exactly.
Because he's a legend, and they're legends.
It's like bringing out Hacksaw Jim Duggan at a show. You know, he gets a pop because he's a legend.
Yep, and that's what the Uncles are. And sadly, the other Uncles only have 2 points. Mm-hmm. And in between them, we have Togi Makabe and Toa Hanare at 4 points, because big guys, I don't know.
Because they're in there, because they have to be, because they're being paid to work, so we gotta give them
because we need an even number of teams.
Yeah, there you go. Because we need an even number of teams. That's the reason.
Oh, boy. And then, yeah, with the big fat goose egg, much as we thought, the team of Ayato Yoshida and Shota Umino, 0 points.
Yeah, the Lions get nothing, and should like it.
Yeah, I don't even know if they will get the Tomo Akihama courtesy win there that, makes the crowd go nuts. I don't think so.
They should just be happy they're getting the experience of being in the tournament and getting to work with these guys. That's what they get. That's their payoff for this. They don't get to win. Yeah,
it would be fun to see, maybe them get a win by disqualification when they go up against Iizuka and Suzuki.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't mind seeing that.
Or could we have, like, a double count out where they just beat each other senseless outside the ring and nobody gets back in.
1 point each. Yay.
Exactly. They can finish with 1 point.
With 1 point.
That's what you get. Here's your reward. Good job, kid.
Make your dad proud there, Shota.
Red Shoes Jr.
El hijo de zapatos rojos.
El Hijo. Yeah, that they should actually make El Hijo de Zapatos Rojos. They should make that as a shirt.
That should be his official name.
Did you see Jonathan Courtwright tagged us in the Evil t-shirt?
No, is this recently on Facebook here?
Yeah. He's like, oh, I know Steve loves this, and he tagged you and I in an Evil and Sonata t-shirt.
Evil and Sonata.
And I immediately loved it and said, fuck yes!
Evil.
He tags us in a lot of stuff. Like, today, what did he tag me? And it was something to do with video games, which kind of got me thinking about it for the show tonight. But I was like, oh, Jonathan, you're kind of late on that. I already knew about that. Let me see if I can find what it was. It was 4 hours ago as of the taping of this show.
4 hours ago. I said, hey, did you hear about Fallout 76?
Oh, no, it wasn't, actually this wasn't, there was another post that was about video games, but this wasn't the one. It was him talking about Luke Cage.
Hmm.
And I was like, yeah, I knew about that scene in Luke Cage because I posted about it on Facebook the first time I watched it. It was fucking awesome.
Yeah, I saw that earlier today. I saw that post from, shout out to Jonathan Courtwright.
Absolutely. We gotta have him on the show one of these days.
He tags us in posts. I don't get it.
What's the deal with using Facebook? I don't get it.
What's the deal with memes about Catherine Janeway killing people? I don't get it.
And what's the deal with that girl who chained herself to the front door of Twitter? I don't get it.
I didn't even know Twitter had a front door.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought too when I saw that trending on Twitter today. I was like, wow, who knew they actually had a physical office that people...
I didn't know they had a front door. I talked to my hacker friends who said they have a lot of back doors.
Yeah, somewhere there's a server farm with Twitter's name on it that they're looking for, but who knew that you could actually go to a physical Twitter office and, like, berate them outside their door with a megaphone?
Oh, Jimmy Hart, where are you?
Mm-hmm. Oh, this was no Jimmy Hart, let me tell you. At least Jimmy Hart gets heat. At least Jimmy Hart makes people either love or hate him. This woman, people were just walking by her and couldn't care less.
Bye, Felicia.
Yeah. I mean, at one point I saw somebody just go around her, like they opened the other door and left her chained to the door she was on. Like, okay, forget you, we're going around you.
Effective protest.
Yeah. Maybe you should have barricaded both doors. Maybe that would have worked a little better.
There you go.
So, that's it, I think. I believe we've covered the World Tag League and all the video game topics.
That covers that, yeah. The Canadian football season is over, and the Calgary Stampeders have won the Grey Cup.
Hooray!
So, shout out to them, and condolences to anyone in Ottawa who was a Red Blacks fan. But, yeah, it's been 3 years in the making, but finally, the Calgary Stampeders have proved themselves to not be the Buffalo Bills of the CFL.
They're the ones with the fat skills because they didn't choke like the Buffalo Bills.
Exactly. Well, they choked the last 2 years, but yeah, I mean, they've made it, like 5 out of the last 6 now, years to the Grey Cup, so it was good to see them finally win one. And Bo Levi Mitchell, please do not go to the NFL because you will end up on somebody's practice roster and you will never start.
Right. Stay where you are. You're in good standing where you're at.
There's probably mad endorsement money to be made up in Canada, too, where you would not get that in the States.
Yeah, you get a Tim Hortons deal. You can plug coffee for them and get paid big money.
There you go. Plug the Tim Hortons and, yeah, stay up there in Calgary. And it was cool seeing Bret Hart up there during the playoffs.
Absolutely. How could Bret Hart not be at a Calgary game when they're going for the Grey Cup? Come on.
Which was great because, yeah, the week before we got to see in Hamilton Ric Flair do the woo chant.
Yeah, I saw the clip of that. That was sweet.
So, yeah, if you're not watching the Canadian Football League, you're missing Ric Flair, you're missing Bret Hart showing up at games. It's wildly entertaining.
Yes, and again, condolences to the Red Blacks because our friends Peter H. and Lisa live there, and we love them, but sorry, Ottawa, it's not your year this year.
Not your year, and yeah, I saw Stevie liked my tweet where after Bo Levi Mitchell had thrown 2 interceptions for Calgary, starting up that Grey Cup. I said, "Who do you think you are, Neil O'Donnell?"
Yeah, I got a good laugh out of that.
But that's okay because Harris for Ottawa ended up throwing 3 interceptions.
Yeah, well, it couldn't be as bad as the what was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback that was subbing for a while? You know who I'm talking about. God, I can't think of his name. Gigantic beard. Fitzgerald, was that it?
I don't know.
Fitzpatrick? Was the one that you're gonna make me look this up now.
Yeah, you're going to have to look this one up.
Because there was
Tim Couch. No, it wasn't Tim Couch.
No,
Tim Couch was pretty bad.
Ryan Fitzpatrick. That's who I'm thinking of. I knew it was.
Okay.
Yeah, it was because Jameis Winston was suspended for 4 games, and at first Fitzpatrick was just lighting it up. He was playing out of his mind. And then there was a game I watched where they were starting to debate, well, is Jameis Winston going to get the starting job back next week? And then Fitzpatrick threw like 4 interceptions in a row, and I was like, I think they'd give Jameis Winston the job at halftime if he was available. Shit.
Oh.
It was pretty brutal.
Brutal.
But, I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick, for those 4 games, like, he had 1 terrible game and 3 good games. So, yeah, he lost the starting job, but he still looked awfully good there for a little bit.
He ain't no Warren Moon.
No.
Oh, the one quarterback who came from the CFL who went on to do any kind of anything in the NFL.
Mm-hmm. Didn't he win a Super Bowl?
No, he did not. The Houston Oilers did not win a Super Bowl.
Oh, I thought maybe he did. I thought maybe he won 1 somewhere.
Don't believe they have. No.
I seem to remember there was a quarterback who won 1 Super Bowl in 89 or 90, but I can't think of his name.
No, they always got stopped playing us. They had, when Three River Stadium was around, they just could not win in Three River Stadium in the postseason.
I'm actually going to Google this now because I'm curious. Quarterbacks who won 1 Super Bowl. Let's see if there's a list.
And then, there was Doug Flutie, who came from the CFL to the NFL. Whose greatest claim to fame in the NFL was kicking that drop kick extra point.
Okay, let me see here. Quarterbacks who started 1 Super Bowl. Doug Williams, that's who I was thinking of. From Grambling State. He led the Redskins to a Super Bowl win.
Oh, there you go. He's got 1.
Mm-hmm.
Warren Moon has 0.
Yep. And Mark Rippon, also for the Washington Redskins. That's the only Super Bowl he played in.
While we're in I've been watching these weird NFL history videos online recently on YouTube, and one of them led me to remember something I had almost forgotten. But there was a time when the New York Jets had both Bubby Brister and Neil O'Donnell on their roster at the same time.
Yeah, that's been a while.
2 of the worst quarterbacks ever.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's see. Who else has just 1? Oh, you know what? Jim McMahon only has 1. One of my all-time favorite quarterbacks.
The Bears.
Yeah, the 1985-86 Chicago Super Bowl Bears. But for all those good years Jim McMahon had, he only went to a Super Bowl 1 time.
No relation to Vince.
No. And Trent Dilfer is another 1-timer for the Baltimore Ravens.
Wow. I mean, he played with everybody in the league.
Yeah. And
Dilfer bounced from team to team.
Yeah, and finally got to the big game in 2000. And who else is a 1-timer? Not too many. A lot of them have played in at least 2. I think Matt Hasselbeck might have only been in 1.
Oh, the one where we beat him.
Yeah, indeed, in 2005. So,
I remember that game.
Yeah, I think that was a pretty good game, wasn't it? Let me look
Yeah.
at the final score on that. Pittsburgh Steelers 21-10. Yeah, that was a good game. That was close.
Yeah, it was one where Roethlisberger dove, into the end zone with his arm extended.
Oh, right, the pylon play.
Mm-hmm. And it's the ball just has to cross the plane, and it did, so touchdown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that game now. That was a good game. So, Thursday Night AMP brought to you by Power Slam TV. Try a free month for $5.99 after your first month. Get 1 month free with the keyword AngryMarks. Jason, what do you want to plug?
Oh, there's a YouTube channel that I've been watching, two channels actually, by a guy called Adam the Woo. Check out his main channel and his auxiliary channel, which is The Daily Woo, WOO. He does a lot of urban exploring and just travels all over the country, and just some interesting videos there. I want to plug that. What else have I been watching lately? Been watching a lot of, like I said, NFL videos. I'm not sure the channel name on that, but, yeah, don't really have anything else to plug.
All right. Well, I've mentioned Review Tech USA a couple of times during the show tonight, so I would say if you're a fan of the Angry Marks podcast and you like listening to us get mad and yell at WWE for being crap, listen to Review Tech USA, particularly when he reviews the Walmart gaming PCs. He's like, oh my God, I work on PCs. I know how bad these motors are. I know how bad these power supplies are. These things are going to be pouring smoke out of the top in a year. I hope yours doesn't start pouring smoke out of it, because apparently...
It better not.
Yeah, Seth Dragon's apparently did, so no impact implosion this week. Hopefully he'll be back next week for the turducken.
Hopefully. Yeah, I'm glad I didn't miss that. I thought that would have been last week, but...
No, we decided not to do it last week because you couldn't be there, and then this week Will couldn't be here, so... We're holding it off
to it
for
eventually.
One more week. We'll keep everybody waiting. That's our cliffhanger, but we will actually pay it off, I promise. For myself, Stevie J, and for the great Sudoku, Jason Harlan, this is Thursday Night AMP. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.